Today, we welcome Cynthia Stone, a dedicated educator and community advocate running to represent District 5 on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School Board of Education. With a background in early childhood and Montessori education, Cynthia brings both compassion and clarity to conversations around student learning and school culture. Her passion for education is rooted in real classroom experience, and she's committed to building strong bridges between educators, families, and the broader community. Cynthia believes that every child deserves a safe and empowering learning environment, and every teacher deserves to feel valued. Her campaign is grounded in transparency, equity, and a vision of the public education where all voices matter and all students thrive. Cynthia Stone, welcome to Voices of Resilience.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So happy to have you here. So let's break the ice and have some fun. What is an unknown thing about you?
Let me see. What don't they know? Because I'm pretty much an open book. But I'll tell you, I am a good storyteller.
Really?
Yes. I can make up any kind of story for any situation. That's how I think that was important to be able to do it in the classroom, but it was also very important to do it as a parent too.
Okay, so does that also mean that you told good stories to get what you needed from your children?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes.
Like, listen, let me tell you this story. No more stories. No. Okay, so let's get up close and personal. Who are you? Where do you come from? How did you get started in education?
As a Charlotte native.
Okay. Yay.
Yeah, how about it? My first year in school was the consolidation year.
Okay.
I went to Pinewood Elementary.
Okay.
Walked to school. Then we moved out of state. But the thing that stuck with me was my third grade teacher, Miss McGraw, shout out, probably not around anymore. Aww. But after going to school, I decided in third grade that I was going to be a teacher.
Wow.
So we left, then we came back to North Carolina, and I went to Cochran and West Charlotte for a little while. Then we moved again, and I finished high school in South Carolina.
Okay.
Went to college. I knew I was going to teach, didn't know what, and hit on elementary ed and taught in the mid to late 70s for a few years and then stopped.
Okay.
Didn't like being poor. Didn't like the fact that the person that I was teaching next door was making maybe $5,000 a year more than I was after 20 plus years in a classroom.
Right.
And I just couldn't see that as a long-term way to sustain myself. So I left and had a great business career, but got recalled because of the way the world was and is. And I feel very strongly now my decision to return to education wasn't based on an influence of someone else, mm-hmm. but I feel and I believe that education is the only way to address poverty, and education has to be equitable so that every child, every human on this planet has a chance to be who they were intended to be.
I love that. That is what we want. I mean, that's what anybody should want, so that American dream that they keep saying that is possible. And so I love how you bring up and you shine a light on equity. How would you work to create systems and opportunities in CMS that would help students from low-income backgrounds break through systemic barriers?
It's interesting if you look back in the history of CMS too, and especially the recent history. When I returned to the classroom in 2005, there were significantly less high poverty schools in CMS. There were also tougher standards, so the expectations were higher for student performance. And it worked. It was working, I think, very well. Change happens. We returned to a neighborhood-based system. We are 45%, and I may be wrong about the exact number, but of Title I schools. Mm-hmm. That shows that we've got a lot of work to do.
Yes.
But what that shows us also is we have a lot of opportunity to celebrate the cultural differences and the backgrounds of everybody in the district. Our kids are great. Now, lots of people say they love kids. Everybody says that. But I also respect them. Mm-hmm. I respect what they need to do for themselves to succeed. And you know what? Growing up, I think, is one of the hardest things any human being has to do, because we have less children are inexperienced by who they are.
Right.
So you have to set up the right experiences for them to develop.
Right.
And that's also cultural and academic and socially. So there's a lot of work we have to do.
Right. Because a lot has changed. And when you brought up the fact that you left and then came back, when you came back, and if you can compare it to now, we've gone from 40%, I think, to an area that is largely Title I, right? So yeah, so when you look, but just because it's Title I doesn't mean we can't make academic progress. So I want to make sure that I say that too. But Title I means that these schools are coming from low income environments, and so you're saying by exposing these students and families to cultural activities and other things that we can help to create equity?
I think so, yes. Mm-hmm. But I also believe that it is important for families and children of schools and programs that are not Title I to see what other people, how all the people in the city operate and live and recognize their strengths and appreciate the contributions they make to, that every group we have in Charlotte can make to us.
Society. What made you come back? Like, who comes back to teaching?
Somebody with a double income.
Okay. Hey,
First off,
that's the kicker. That's important. Someone with a double income and someone with a what?
I would say, for me, it was the sincere social belief that we have to provide educational opportunities so people can grow to be what they need to be, to become contributing members of society, to understand who and what other people are, and to appreciate it. That's what put me back in a classroom. I thought seriously about going to into administration. I enjoyed my business career. I liked being a boss. I liked running projects. I did tech. I did human resources. I ran into people I recruited and people that worked for me in my teaching career, which was really strange. But education happens in a classroom.
What you just said is the reason why we need to bring honor back to the teaching profession, because we can do it all. We can really do it all. And you want someone that has had the opportunity to go outside of those four walls and get skills, build skills, and then come back and disseminate that to little ears or high school ears, because it makes the difference. From your perspective, what are the biggest causes of teacher turnover in CMS, especially in District 5? And how might the board act to support educators in the long run?
Recruitment is an issue, of course. Magnet school recruitment is especially tough. Honestly, I can say that I have never felt disrespected by any of the parents or any of my peers. I do feel like we need to focus on what teachers need.
Yes.
In maybe a different way.
Right.
For example, the teachers don't get paid during the summer. Let's look at the work days. What opportunities do they have to come in to prepare their classrooms for the beginning of the year that gives them enough time to do it? Do we respect the fact that they're working overtime every day?
Yes.
You can't do the job well if you
you're
don't.
not. Right.
And asking the teachers what they need to do their jobs better or to feel better about their jobs. It's stress. It's a stressful job,
Right.
with a lot of demands.
Yes, it is. I mean, you have teachers who get up early in the morning and they get home late at night. They can't even get to a bank.
Right.
And don't have children, don't have a husband.
Yeah.
It's so for me, retention in CMS is about creating a culture of appreciation, not oppression, empowering teachers to own their skills and be in a position of not necessarily, I'm going to use my power over this person, but I'm going to influence a nation. I'm going to influence the community. I'm going to influence my students. I don't feel like CMS, when I was a teacher, let me say that. When I was a teacher in CMS, that I could do that. And so it wasn't worth the money. But every time I looked at those little faces, I knew I had to get back into it. Some way or somehow I had to get back into some area of education. What will you bring to the board in a way that advocates for teachers' social and emotional health? Not necessarily the financial part, because we know that financial piece is in Raleigh. And
for the most part, yeah.
For the most part, right. But for the social and emotional health of our teachers who are in the trenches, how can you being on the board help that work go further?
I think a consistency across the board that would recognize, you know what, sometimes teachers need to leave campus maybe for an hour and come back.
Yes.
Don't make people take a half a day off to go to a dentist appointment. When Dr. Gorman added 45 minutes to the elementary school day, I was in a magnet program, so that meant my dismissal time was much later, and I had to change dentists because I couldn't get an appointment.
Couldn't get there.
Couldn't get there. So those kinds of issues, and allowing the schools to make coverage choices or fill in the gaps while a teacher does take a run to the bank or something to come right back. They're, especially in the elementary school programs, because they don't have planning periods in the same way that middle and high school teachers do. Things like that would make them feel valued, recognizing their time is so limited.
What I love about talking to a seasoned educator is that you can look at things and how they've evolved, but education is the same. I'm going to move away from that portion of education to the mental aspect. We are in a society that's very digitized, and our students are in this, and they've been through COVID, and they've been through this, and they're going through that. This takes a toll on not just the teachers, but the students. And so we look at how this can also impact safety. So my next question is, you highlight student safety and mental health among your top priorities. What specific policies or supports would you advocate for to ensure that schools are not only physically safe, but also emotionally supportive for every child?
I believe in early intervention, and that has to happen with identification. Teachers spend more time, awake time, with children,
yes,
more than their parents do,
yes,
often. And little children, young children, elementary school children, they love school for the most part. They want to come to school.
Yes,
they want to be
do.
with their friends. They love their teachers. I mean, I went through hug withdrawal when I retired. If a child is acting out, it's not because they just want to.
Right.
Something is behind that. I've watched a child become a different child, come to find out there was abuse going on. What we need are stronger systems in the elementary schools that support teachers when they see these behaviors. Don't just apply a consequence to the behavior, but spend time understanding what's driving that behavior.
Right.
Then look at how to intervene and support that kid. Growing up is, like I said earlier, it's hard.
Right.
Children need to be able to learn to trust themselves. They need to learn how to handle difficult situations. They need to develop a sense of, for lack of a better word, love for humanity at that point.
Yes.
If we can get them if we can keep them in that space or help them maintain that space for themselves by identifying and addressing circumstances and the supports needed,
Right.
may prevent some of the things we're seeing that happens when they get older.
Yes,
as older
I agree.
teens.
I agree, because when you don't know how to advocate for yourself, we're moving into an area where we are being discouraged to even have critical thinking skills, because of the times. But what I feel like we can do to soften the blow for children is to identify those things that are affecting them emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Because teachers have a lot, they have to make sure you're eating, to make sure you're dressed, make sure you're learning, it's just like a list of things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never ending. So, but that's more important, because I think that if you can nip that in the butt, that if you can get that, get down there with that student and learn and understand, you will have a better outcome.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I learned too that children are so authentic. They know when you're not. They know when you are in it for the win and only the check. And it's like, why are you here? It's not like you're a millionaire, making a lot of money. You chose the teaching profession and we want to learn. They can spot you right out. So I'm going to move on to one of the things that I love about reading about you is quality of education, and what matrix are indicators are most important when we're measuring whether a school district is delivering quality education.
That's a multifaceted question, shall we say. It was great to hear the positive news about the learning gains CMS made last year as a whole. However, I read recently an article that was published in the Christian Science Monitor about seniors, high school seniors,
Yes.
who are not competent readers.
Right.
Well, reading truly is the basis for everything. And there are ways to teach reading, and there are ways to support students who need extra help with reading. And I think there are ways to measure it.
Right.
We have to make sure, without a question, that children can decode, that they make the link between oral and written language. Mm-hmm. These are very foundational. So phonics has to be a major part of reading instruction. But also we run the risk of expecting more understanding, more comprehension at a higher level too soon, because
I like that.
they're not ready for some content that they might have to comprehend and then repeat back. Well, you can learn how to do that for a test. You can teach a kid how to take a test, but to make sure they really do know what they're doing it.
Yes.
Because if you follow kids that maybe do well on the EOGs or whatever, and then a few years later they fall off and the scores drop, it's because those foundational skills weren't firm.
I love this, and that's exactly how I feel. I remember when I started kindergarten, it was supposed to be fun, right? Kindergarten was fun. It was discovery. Now there's a push for first graders to read. There's a push for, and I'm not trying to hold them back, but I'm glad that I was a part of a time where education was fun. School was fun. It wasn't a competition. It wasn't a race to see if, it was more of a discovery of learning and how this goes together and phonics and oh, this makes sense now, how to solve issues and problems and work together, work with my group. But now it's no time.
I know that the reading blocks in elementary schools are dedicated for reading, but what are they doing during those blocks?
Right.
What and how is it developmentally appropriate, and how does it address the social emotional level of the audience or the participants in that particular lesson? Like I said, if it's not presented at the right time, then all they're doing is simple memorization, which is another thing I don't like anymore, that kids don't memorize anything. Right. They don't have to. But also the introduction of screen time at an early age.
Yes.
Kids learn concretely before they can learn abstractly. So the concrete understanding of phonics and maybe basic absolutely math, numbering skills, etc., that has to come first.
Right.
And they have to be able to, then they move naturally into higher level skill sets because they are becoming able to abstract. And I'd say it usually happens maybe late third, fourth grade maybe, that then you can start just teaching with a whiteboard. Up to that point, they're developing their memory, they're developing the ability to concentrate, their brain is developing, their bodies are developing.
Yes.
The growth rate is incredible for young children. Their vision is developing. And screen time, I just saw a story this morning about how the screen time is affecting nearsightedness in children. Nobody was nearsighted 30 years ago. No 7-year-old
Right.
was. It was a rare child
Right.
that was nearsighted at 7 years old.
Right.
So I think, if we want to go swing into technology and applying it into a classroom situation, I can't say I support it for basic skills because of the fact that it is not concrete.
Right. So you're saying earlier on.
Early.
Right. Okay.
It's one thing to let them watch something on YouTube, just a cartoon or a game or something like that for a limited time, but to rely on canned math programming and things like that, I'm just really skeptical on that. I think, though, technology is a tool and everybody needs to face how
it's happening.
It's happening whether we're ready for it or not. And I applaud CMS to take the initiative they're taking in addressing AI and how to use it and how to teach kids how to use it. I think that's incredibly forward thinking.
Right. That's good. Okay, so before we close out, I want you to take the opportunity to address your district and tell them why you're running, who you are, all those good things, and why they should vote for you.
I think who I am is pretty much out there for most people. My values drive everything I do, and that's important. But the things that concern me about what's happening in District 5, we have, like we were alluding to, the percentages of Title I schools, but we also have some very not Title I schools too that are great elementary schools. Why are parents who have access to the great schools that we all have, why are they choosing not to put their kids in CMS?
Right.
And then turning around and coming back for maybe a high school experience. Why? Because I think that's something we need to focus on.
Okay.
Why doesn't the public trust our education system. And what would it take for the district, CMS District 5, what would have to happen to change that mindset so that public education became the first choice of a family? We're a world-class city. We want world-class. If we want to stay that way, we need a world-class school district, because this is where the business brain kicks in. What company is going to move here?
Right.
If we can't have a workforce that can support it, if we don't want to risk, if you can't pull your employees to move with you because they look at the school system and say, nope, not going to Charlotte.
Right. Because they don't have a good school system.
Right. So we have to do this.
Right.
I believe that education is the way we address these issues, from an individual all the way up to a corporate level.
Yes, I agree.
I think the interesting thing is I've done enough of different lives to know that regardless of where you find yourself, you have to understand certain things and be able to do certain things to be a participating, well-adjusted, balanced citizen in a crazy world. So that's why I'm running. I think I bring a skill set to the board, and certainly the most recent classroom experience, I think. I'll know that. And feeling that kids want to come to school again and they want to be in, and parents want their kids in CMS, that's when we'll know. That's when we'll know that we've made a difference.
That is awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us here at Voices of Resilience, taking the time to come out and give us who you are, give us a lineup of why you're running, and I hope to see you on the board.
Thank you very much. This has been very enjoyable.
Thank you.